Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I am back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation I received over the last 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, or considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at fitcosgrove_. All right, let's get started with this week's no filter Q&A with question number one. Nick, why do I look flatter and smaller the leaner I get? I thought getting shredded was supposed to make me look bigger. Um, I would suggest that that's a combination of diet brain and lack of glycogen storage. So what happens when you go on a diet? First thing is you reduce, most people anyway, reduce their carbohydrate intake, right? That's a smart thing to do. And what happens is when you start to reduce your carbohydrate intake, your body's going to also retain less water. You got to remember that muscle is 80% water. So if you're retaining less fluid, the muscle is not going to look as big. It's not going to appear as large. It's not going to appear as dense, right? Round and full. So with the lack of water, the muscle is going to look a little bit more atrophy. So it's going to look smaller. Okay. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're losing muscle though. Okay. How you know you're losing muscle is if your strength starts to dramatically go down in the gym. But what is happening is because your body's not holding as much water and as much glycogen for the carbohydrates, you appear smaller. Okay. But you have to remember if you're getting ready for a special event or if you're getting ready for a bodybuilding show, photo shoot, the intelligent thing to do is to give yourself the casual or occasional refeeds, I should say. So with myself or with my clients, what I'll usually do is give them one cheat meal a week. Or for people who don't like to have junk food, I'll just say, okay, I want you to have two meals a week that are just extra portions. So if someone's doing, let's say, half a cup of rice, I'll say, okay, for each meal, half a cup of rice, I want you to do each meal, let's do 1 cup of rice for one day. Okay, so if you're doing like 4 meals of rice and they're doing half a cup, that's 2 cups. Let's bring that up to 4 cups for one day. Okay, so just getting a little bit more carbs in them. And that gets replenishes glycogen storage. It'll allow the muscles to kind of get that pop, rehydrate the muscles when you're drinking water. So that's why I incorporate refeeds and cheat meals into people's plans. Also gives them a sense of normalcy. Okay. The second thing, which is probably more common than not, is diet brain. When you've been dieting for a very long time, and take it from someone who's done this numerous times, your mind starts to play tricks on you. You start to second guess everything. Am I getting too small? Am I not lean enough? Am I too lean? Am I losing muscle? So what happens is, you start to really like analyze and critique your physique every day. So for a lot of people, this is why it's important to have a coach in your corner, an experienced set of eyes who can tell you, no, no, you're actually looking really good. Trust me, you're on the right trajectory. Because a lot of times when you're in it yourself, you think, oh, I need to be leaner, or I'm getting too lean. I should eat more food, or maybe I should back off the cardio. So you start to second guess yourself because you're not really good in a good headspace to make those decisions. That's why a lot of people have coaches because they know when they get into the depths of a really, and I'm talking about extreme diet, like for a bodybuilding show, physique fitness competition, you're really in the depths of diet. Your carbs are low, your cardio is high, you're depleted, you're drained, so you're not thinking clearly. All right. When you combine that with a lack of water and lack of glycogen, you're going to appear smaller and that's going to play head games with you. All right. Or it's the other thing where people think I'm not lean enough. And then they start cutting calories more, cutting carbs more, doing more cardio. And then their physique looks worse. Okay. I've seen this too. So my recommendation is if you find that you can't really make those decisions yourself, hire a coach. And if you're someone who trains on your own and you're like, no, I don't need a coach. I like going to the gym. I do my own diet. I'm like, that's great. But maybe just have a coach that you could work with online that could just oversee everything you're doing and offer you their advice, their opinions. Okay. Because it can make a huge difference. And I've had coaches in the past that helped me. And it does make a difference because there's times where I'm going to do something drastic, like I'm going to add another 45 minutes of cardio, and I'll talk to one of my friends who competes, like, no, 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 don't do any cardio. You're good. If anything, back off the cardio. And it helps to talk to someone who's experienced and knowledgeable because they're usually right. 9 times out of 10, they're usually right. I'm not saying go get this advice from your mom or your dad who doesn't know anything about working out or the physique. Get it from someone you trust. Get it from someone who's going to have an unbiased opinion. So not your best friend. All right. Get it from someone who's done it themselves and who's coached people. So my recommendation is if you're not sure when and where to make those tweaks and revisions, hire a coach, an experienced coach that can help guide you along the way with both your nutritional plan and your training program. All right. Okay. Nick, is there a point where training more actually makes your physique look worse instead of better? Yeah, so this kind of correlates to that last question. Doing too much too soon is going to fry out your adrenal glands. You're going to get adrenal fatigue. You're going to overtrain your central nervous system. You're going to burn out. Okay. You're going to be running on fumes. And this is very common with competitive athletes where they just try to just go from 0 to 100 overnight. More cardio, less food, more hours in the gym. And more does not equate to better results. I promise you. I've made this mistake numerous times in my younger years, and I realized that when I take my foot off the gas pedal a little bit, just a little bit, I actually get better results because what happens is my cortisol levels go down. I recover better. I feel better. I'm more hydrated. My body's well fed. So I'm not just spinning my wheels. So more time in the gym does not equate to better results necessarily. Now, when I say more time in the gym, I'm not saying like go to the gym twice a week. No, no, still go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, but you don't need to spend 2 or 3 hours in the gym. 45, 50 minutes, 60 minutes max. That should be sufficient if you're training hard, okay? You're training intelligently and approaching your workouts methodically. If you do too much, your body is going to have the complete opposite effect. It's not going to respond, okay? You're going to hold water. You're going to hold fat. Your metabolism, again, I talked about this last week, your metabolism won't necessarily slow down, but you're not doing yourself any favors because now your body is starting to say, okay, if I'm going to state of starvation, I need to slow down. I'm not going to exert as much energy. Okay, so you don't want to just starve yourself and do endless hours of cardio just to get leaner and harder. Okay, sometimes the best thing to do is actually do the complete opposite. Give yourself a refeed meal or a cheat meal. Take a day or two off from the gym. Take some time away from cardio. Let your body and your mind refresh, and you go back at it strong the next day or 2 or 3 days later. Okay. This, in my experience, works best for most people. And I know it's hard to, when you're in it, you're like, no, I should be doing more. And sometimes, yes, sometimes you do need to do more, especially if you know you're guilty of, hey, I've only been to the gym once or twice this week and my diet hasn't been good. Yeah, you have to do more. But if you're someone like me who works out a lot and you follow a fairly clean diet and you're not seeing results, in my experience, the best thing to do is take your foot off the gas for a few days and get back to it. You just need to reset. Okay. I promise you, it works all the time. I was going to say 9 times out of 10, but every time I tell someone take a reset, it works for them. It just resets their whole body. It resets their whole mind. And they go back and they're more motivated to get to the gym again. They're more motivated to get back on the diet again. It works. You don't want to take too long of a break because that can be really hard to come back from, but give yourself a day, maybe two, tops three, and then get right back into it again. And you'll feel good. Okay. I promise you. I've done this to clients for years and it works every single time. Okay. So don't do too much and don't do too soon. All right. Gradually start increasing cardio, gradually start decreasing carbohydrates, gradually start increasing the weights you're lifting in the gym, whatever your goal is. So you're not just doing things from 0 to 100. It's a good way to get injured, good way to get burnt out, good way to make your physique look worse. Okay. All right, next question. Nick, why do some people completely lose their physique after a bodybuilding show while others rebound and keep improving? So I think that's from lack of experience. All right. My first show I ever did, no one was there to guide me what to do post show. So I thought, I worked so hard for 16 weeks. I prepared for this one show and I did pretty well. I won my class, lost in the overalls, and I thought, I deserve a break. So all I could think of the last 3 days of the show was not how I was going to do on stage, was what was I going to eat after the show? I was going to enjoy the time off from the gym. I was going to give myself 2 weeks off from the gym. And I did. I actually gave myself 2 weeks off and I ate whatever I wanted. After those 2 weeks, I didn't even look like I competed. I didn't even look like I went to the gym. My body was retaining so much fluid from all the junk food I was consuming, all that extra sodium. My joints hurt. My back hurt from all the excess weight I gained. I gained a combination of water and fat, mostly water, but I just looked like a water buffalo. I was holding so much water weight. And it was a terrible experience. And the worst thing was after I took those 2 weeks off, I thought, oh, I'm going to come back to the gym. I'm going to be motivated to do it. No, I took too long of a break. And that's what I was just saying in the last question. Don't take too long off. Okay. 2 or 3 days, get back to it. All right. So what I learned from that show was this very valuable lesson. Actually, I learned a few lessons, but the main thing I learned was to make this a lifestyle. Now, I don't mean follow a competition diet like a lifestyle. Nobody should be doing that. But what I learned from after doing that first show is all those foods that were in my diet, I actually enjoy. I just wasn't eating enough. So, I used to eat a cup of rice. So when I would go on a diet, I eat half a cup of rice. Well, that's not enough for a guy like me who's burning tons of calories. So I brought that back up to a cup for my next show. I brought my chicken back up. I brought my oatmeal back up. Okay, so I was still eating the same foods, but I was just eating more of them. I wasn't doing junk foods. I'm talking about my second show, my third show, my fourth show. I got right back on the diet, but I fed myself more. And because I was feeding myself more, I had more energy. Anyone will tell you when they've depleted their carbs for weeks to months on end, as soon as they start refeeding themselves with carbs, it's like a double shot of espresso after every meal. You have tons of energy because your body is so depleted of carbohydrates. So every little bit of carbs, every gram of carbs you get, you're like, wow, I feel great. Very common. So what I tell competitors now, or anyone who's been following an extreme diet, utilize those carbohydrates, those extra carbs to your benefit. Don't eat them and then go sit on the couch and watch a movie. Eat them and then go train. All right. So to this day, after my show, after every show I've ever done, I've gotten right back on the diet, same foods, but I've gradually increased my portions week to week. So instead of doing, like I said, maybe 50 grams of carbs per meal, now I'm doing 100 grams of carbs per meal. Then I bump that up to 120, 130, 150, 100, so on. Okay. So I can have a lot of carbs. I'm just saying, it depends on the individual, obviously, but utilize those macronutrients to your benefit. Be strategic. All right. So, in my experience, the people who go the other way and they rebound hard are the people who, either they're newbies, so they've never done a show before. And it's their first time. It's a rookie mistake. And the thing is, I've trained some people for the first show, and I tell them, I warn them about the post-contest rebound that it could go really good or really bad, depending on what you decide to do. And a lot of rookies, they don't want to listen. They're like, I'm so burnt out. I just want to eat whatever I want. I'm like, all right, it's your body, it's your life, but I'm telling you, you're going to pay for it. And then they learn their lesson, and then they usually remember how bad it felt. They get back on track, and for their second and third show, they don't do it again. So it's usually a rookie mistake. Now, there are some people that do compete, and then in their so-called off season, they don't even look like they go to the gym. I think those people don't really love the lifestyle. They're just doing it for competing. And the thing is, I've never done bodybuilding shows just for the love of competing. I actually enjoy going to the gym. I enjoy following a strict diet. I don't really even enjoy the competing. The competing has done wonders for my business because I can train athletes, I can train competitors, I can train everyday people because I have some additional credentials besides my education. I mean, all my awards, all my trophies, all my first place finishes, got even my second place finishes. That adds to my credentials. I'm practicing what I preach. So if I wasn't in the fitness industry, I probably wouldn't compete. I'd probably still go to the gym. I'd probably still eat the same way, train the same way, but I wouldn't compete. Okay. So I think the competition lifestyle is not for everyone. And there's some people, they just want to do it once, it's on their bucket list, and then that's it. And there's some people who, in my opinion, should not be competing, not because of the way they look, just because of the psychological ramifications it has on their mental state, and also on their body. Because yeah, I mean, a lot of people they rebound hard, they mess up their thyroid because they're taking crazy fat burners, or excessive amounts of anabolic steroids, and then they have problems with their kidneys, livers, libido, so on. And, the guys go bald, guys get acne. So, you got to really make sure this is something you want to do. And if it's something you don't want to do, and it's just like something you're just like, I just want to get up there and I want to compete, I want to show off, I wouldn't recommend it because nobody cares. I can tell you that right now. Nobody cares. Once you do a show, even if you win first place, yeah, you get a lot of congratulations. People are really proud of you, and you get some. But after 2 to 3 days, they forget about it, right? But for me, it's something I can add to my credentials. So when a new client wants to work with me, they can go through my resume and go, wow, he's competed for over 15 years on stage. He helps other competitors. So it's something I can add to my resume. So it has value for me. Okay. But you have to turn it into a lifestyle. And if it's something that you don't actually enjoy, if you don't enjoy going to the gym and you don't enjoy following a disciplined diet, my recommendation to you is do not do a competition because the psychological ramifications and the physical ramifications it's going to have on your physique long term, not worth it. All right. Okay. Nick, how do you know when your body actually needs more food versus when you're just craving junk food because your diet sucks? You have to assess your diet. I've had this problem with a few clients who come to work with me on their nutritional plans. First thing I always ask for people who sign up to work with me on a nutritional plan, I ask for a 3-day food log, just so I can see what their diet looks like. And usually that will consist of 2 work days and 1 day they have off. So a weekend, maybe a Saturday, and they send me what they do on Thursday, Friday. The reason I ask for that is because I'd like to see how their diet changes on a day that they're working, like a 9 to 5 job, versus a day that they have completely off. And there usually are some big changes. Okay. Another thing too is I look for what I call common foods are regular meals that people like to have. Most people, there's something that they have every day. I know people like variety in their diet, but there's so many people I work with where they're like, oh yeah, I really like having oatmeal in the morning. I'm like, great, perfect. I love that you're having oatmeal. I don't love that you're having the added sugar Quaker oatmeal. Why don't we get you on regular oatmeal? Okay. So there's things like that. I don't like that you're putting half a cup of milk in your oatmeal. Let's switch that to maybe water or almond milk. So there's little tweaks and revisions I make. The reason I ask for that though too is because I try to compromise with a lot of my clients. I try to find foods that they like and say, okay, I can incorporate these foods into your diet because they're actually not that bad. But either you're having too much of this food or you're having maybe the wrong type of this food where it's added sugar, or maybe you're just doing not enough of this food, right? And we can kind of balance it out. So sometimes when I look at someone's diet and I'll look and I'll see, wow, this person has a lot of carbs, they have a lot of protein, but they don't have enough fats. And the reason why they're constantly craving more carbs is because they don't have enough fats. Fats allow you to stay fuller for a longer period of time. So if you're following a low fat diet, to me, that's a mistake because if you're following a low fat diet, you're constantly going to be hungry. Okay. So what I like to do with most of my clients, especially my female clients, I'll incorporate fats into pretty much every meal except their pre-workout meal. Okay. But across the board, if I'm doing, let's say, 6 meals, 5 of those meals will contain fats. And, the pre-workout meal contains small traces of fats, but no direct fat sources. I don't recommend people consume too much fat pre-workout because it takes longer to digest. The last thing you want to be doing while you're working out is digesting your food. You want something that's easy to digest. Oatmeal is perfect with maybe some protein powder or egg whites. That's very easy to digest. It's very light on the stomach. And so the fiber will allow you to stay fuller while you're working out too. Okay. So you're not just going to be ravenous and super hungry while you're working out. So that's just an example. But the whole ideology here is finding foods that people enjoy and trying to incorporate them into their plans while still putting in some of the foods that I want them to have. That's going to allow them to perform better in the gym, have lots of energy, feel better throughout the day, sleep better, and it's going to allow them to either lose weight or gain muscle, whatever their goal may be. All right. So you have to be strategic when you're putting together a nutritional plan for somebody. So when I have some people who tell me they're craving, for example, sugar, 9 times out of 10, if someone's craving sugar, they're a sugar addict, right? But I look at what they're doing with their diet, and it was so often, more often than not, it's because in this case, they don't have enough fats. Okay. Or if someone's telling me their energy levels are really low, and I'm looking at their diet, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. You don't have enough complex carbohydrates. You're not really giving your body enough energy. I see this a lot of times with people who are, I don't want to say they're doing keto diets, but they're almost doing keto diets, but they're not really in ketosis. So they're not running on ketones. They're still running on carbohydrates, but their carbs are so low. I'm like, well, no wonder your energy is constantly low. You're almost on a contest prep diet at this point. So I fixed that. Okay, I added more carbs in. One of the most, in my opinion, the most overrated macronutrient to this day is still protein. Everyone talks about, oh, I can get more protein. I get more protein. I'm like, why? Well, muscle. I'm like, okay, unless you yourself are in the gym 5, 6 days a week, you don't need crazy amounts of protein. You really don't. I talked about this in the past. My rule of thumb for everyone I work with across the board, if they're in the gym once a week, twice a week, 3 times, whatever it is, I say I want you to get at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if you're 200 pounds, that's 200 grams of protein. Now, if you're someone who's coming to see me and now you start lifting more, you're in the gym maybe 5 days a week, 6 days a week, I'm going to bump that up. I'm going to say, I want you doing 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. All right, now we're going to increase this. You're getting ready for a bodybuilding show and it's your off season. All right, we're going to multiply that by 2. Right. So now you're looking at 400 grams of protein. But I don't just say, okay, well, we need more protein. No. Okay. Yes, a lot of people don't consume enough protein, but I feel that protein to this day is still the most overrated macronutrient. And the most underrated macronutrient, fats. Fats are essential. We cannot live without them. So you're making a huge mistake by following low fat or no fat diets. Do not buy low fat foods. Do not buy no fat foods. Okay. We need fats. And I'm not talking about trans fats here. I'm talking about the good fats, omega-3, polysaturated. You want the good fats, avocados, omega-3s, salmon. Okay. I was going to say omega-3 eggs. So these are the good fats that your body wants and your body needs for survival. Carbohydrates, everyone's so scared of carbs. If you are utilizing them at the right times of the day, as in around your workout, you're using the right carbs, as in complex carbs, not simple carbs, you're not going to get fat as long as you're practicing portion control. You food scale. measuring cup. If you're not practicing portion control and you're gaining weight, yet you're following a clean diet, you don't know what you're having too much of. Are you having too much carbs, too much fats, too much protein? Because if you're having too much, you're going to spill over. You spill over, you're going to put on weight. All right. So it's really important to track what you're doing. And I know it can be, this is extra work and it's a nuisance. I'm like, look, how bad do you want it? If you want to lose fat, if you want to lose your gut, you've got to make sure that you're dialing in your diet. You don't have to do it for life. Once you get down to your goal, you can maybe take your foot off the gas a little bit and eyeball foods every once in a while, go out for meals more. But until you get down to that goal, you should be dialed in. Because if you want to achieve something, in my mind, you're all in. So you're all in or you're not. It's pretty simple to me. All right. Okay. Nick, how do you mentally handle having a physique that still isn't where you want it to be, even after years of hard work? Enjoy the challenge and set goals beyond aesthetics. I was talking about this last week on my coaching reality series. You have to have another goal. It cannot just be about aesthetics. It can't. And I've talked about how if vanity gets you into the gym, great, perfect. But you need to have other goals. And those goals need to go beyond having bigger arms or strided pecs or ripped abs or perky glutes, whatever you want, like glute hamstring tie-in, whatever you want. No cellulite on my thighs. Okay, I get it. But you also have to have another why as to why you're going to the gym, why you're eating clean. Because there's going to be times like what this person says where you're not seeing change in your physique. And I hate to tell this to you, but here's the thing. A lot of people who train hard in the gym and look really good are the most self-conscious people. They look great. I've had this with competitors over the years and they say, I look like crap. I'm like, oh my God. You know how many people would love to have your body, but you don't see that. So bear in mind, keep that in mind too, because if you are someone who is training, you don't think you're progressing, you don't think you look good, there's a lot of people that would love to look like you. Remember that. Okay. No, you might not look like a Ronnie Coleman, Mr. Olympia, 8-time Mr. Olympia. Okay. No, but you might look pretty damn good. And by you sitting there, I don't look like good. I look like crap. Saying that around someone who maybe is more self-conscious because they do have a gut, okay? Or they don't really have muscular arms, whatever it may be. They don't really work out. So, you got to be careful what you say. And so what I always tell people too is have those goals beyond the aesthetics. So think about the benefits that working out offers, the health benefits. You feel better. You're more confident in your body. You have more energy. All right. So I always go by those things too. Those metrics are huge for me because I'm like, yeah, I don't look like 8-time Mr. Olympia, and that's not my goal, but I feel good. My blood works great. I've got lots of energy. I recover well. I'm usually in a pretty good mood for the most part, and I attribute all that to exercise, regular exercise. All right. So you have to find those other goals. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you are someone who's been training for years on end and you have been putting in the work and you have been dieting hard and you really aren't seeing results, you're doing something wrong. All right. You can't blame your genetics. There's only so much you can blame your genetics. So if you're doing something wrong, again, not plugging in my own services here, but hire a coach because that coach is going to help you. Like, why are you continuing to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result? If you're not getting results, hire a coach because honestly, then you are just spinning your wheels. And you are doing what I always talk about, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. That is the true definition of insanity. Okay, so don't be insane. Hire someone that can help you. Say, yeah, you know what? You look like you are training hard at the gym, but I don't think this training program is working for you. So why don't you try this? I still want you to train hard in the gym, but try this training split. Maybe you're overtraining. Maybe you're undereating. A good coach is going to be able to see those red flags and plug in what you need to do to help you get to that next level. All right. But chances are, if you at least have been training hard for like, let's say 5, 6 years, I'm sure you have a pretty decent physique. So again, be very careful what you say around people who don't have the greatest physique or I just have a hard time going to the gym. Okay. So I'm always very careful to say that even though I critique my physique at times, I know that, and this is going to sound arrogant, and I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I know that physique wise, that my physique is going to look better than the average physique out there for men. Okay. But I also put a lot of work into my physique. I do. I don't mean that to sound arrogant. I mean that in a way that I'm proud of the physique I've built. No, of course, there's guys who are bigger than me, leaner than me. Of course, I'm not in competition with anybody, but I'm just saying that I'm very careful about what I say about, oh, I look like crap right now. I'm putting too much body fat because I know that will make someone else just feel terrible because like, well, if he thinks that's the way he looks, what does he think about the way I look? So be very careful what you say around people who maybe don't go to the gym as often or struggle with their fitness, struggle with their diet. Okay. Really be aware of the people in your inner circle and just people around you too when you say those things, because it can really put someone down and I know that might not be what your goal is, but it can make someone feel bad and maybe actually demotivate them to start going to the gym or just stop going to the gym altogether. All right. So set other goals besides aesthetics. There's more than just the outer appearance that is important when you're trying to build a better physique. Building a better physique is great, but you also want to think what that does internally and mentally. Okay, because there's numerous other benefits that going to the gym are going to offer. Okay, a few more questions here. Nick, why do my workouts feel amazing some days, and other days I feel weak before I even get into the gym? You're not a machine. Okay, you're not. You can't just push on the on button, take on push on the off button. It doesn't work like that. Not every day is going to be perfect. There's going to be some days where you have a shitty sleep. There's going to be some days where you may have fought with your girlfriend or boyfriend, husband, wife, and now you're all stressed out. There's going to be some days where you're just overworked at your job. Okay, so you have to take those into consideration. There's going to be some times where you're just sick. Maybe one of your kids came home and gave you something. Now you're sick. Okay. So not every day is going to be perfect. There's going to be some days where you had a great sleep, you had a great meal, you go into the gym and like, well, why does this workout suck? Because you're human. You're not a machine. So you have to understand that those days are going to come and they're going to come quite often. Now, it's your job to understand that when those days come, though, that you have to be able to guide yourself through them. So, for example, there's some times where I'm training chest. Like last week, I was bench pressing 225. This week, 225, there's no way. I'm struggling right now at 135. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. I got my pre-workout meal and I slept well. I drank enough water. I don't know. It is what it is, though. So I just listen to my body and say, well, I'm not going to bench press 225 today. I'm going to bench press 135. Maybe I'll do more reps. Maybe I'll take less rest, right? Maybe I'll really focus on slowing down my repetitions so I can focus on the eccentric and concentric contraction. So the way I approach my workouts and my clients' workouts, it's not like, oh, let's try to constantly set new PRs. That's ridiculous. I don't train power lifters. I tell my clients this all the time. I don't care how much you're lifting. As long as we're taking your muscle to failure in the gym, if we're training chest, for example, as long as I take pec major and pec minor to the gym, I did my job. I don't care if we did that with 100-pound dumbbells or we did that with 12-pound dumbbells. As long as when you leave the gym, you can barely even push a dumbbell up over your chest, I did my job. Because now you're going to take it home, you're going to recover, you're going to rest, you're going to hydrate, you're going to eat, and the muscle's going to grow. All right. And we're going to train it again 7 days from now or 6 days from now. Okay. And that's how I apply that principle to my own workouts too. So you can't constantly be thinking, oh, my strength's going to go up every week, and if it doesn't, then I'm not progressing. That's not true. You're progressing just by going to the gym and getting in a good workout. Okay. Remember I talked about last week how there's no such thing as a bad workout? That's not true. Lots of bad workouts. But if you're going to the gym and you're still giving it your all and you're not as strong that day, who cares? You're still giving it your all. Your body, your muscles don't know how much you're bench pressing. They don't know. As long as you're like, man, this feels heavy today. I'm getting a good workout from just doing this lighter weight. Perfect. Even better. It's less stress on your joints. I've always said if I can get better results lifting 100 pounds than lifting 1,000 pounds, I take the 100 pounds all day, every day. I would, because I can preserve my joints, my tendons, my ligaments. I'm not trying to impress anybody with ridiculous weights. So, and again, nobody cares. Nobody cares how much you're lifting. Like maybe some teenage boys, but nobody really cares how much you're lifting in the gym. So if you're there to build your physique and improve your physical health and your mental health, just focus on what you're doing in the gym. Establish that mind to muscle connection, have tunnel vision, focus on your workouts, and get in, get out. Don't worry if your weights are down 1 week or up 1 week. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily not making progress. And just because you're increasing your weight doesn't necessarily mean that you're making progress. Okay. Sometimes I've had people have a cheat meal and they go into the gym and they're really strong. Well, of course you're strong. You had about an extra 200 grams of carbs in you. And so you're holding a lot of water. So that doesn't necessarily mean you're progressing. You're going to feel stronger that day because you had a cheat meal. Very common. Okay. But you didn't add on 2 pounds of muscle because you're stronger 1 week versus the next, nor did you lose 2 pounds of muscle because you had one workout you weren't as strong. Okay, so just remember that you're not a machine, you're a human. So you're going to have your on days and you're going to have your off days. It's just important that you know how to guide yourself through those off days. Okay, because they're going to come. It's just like I tell people when there's a plateau, it's going to come. So you have to know how to get yourself to surpass that plateau. All right. So pay attention to what you're doing in the gym, listen to your body, and establish that mind to muscle connection. Block out the noise, block out, oh, that person is lifting this much weight. So why am I not that strong? Maybe I should be doing what they're doing. No, just focus on what you can do and what you can achieve with your health, your physique, and your performance in the gym. All right. Okay, we've got two more questions. Sorry. Nick, if my form gets a little sloppy on the last few reps, does that automatically make it a bad set? No. So this is actually a strategy that I use with a lot of my clients on certain exercises when I'm trying to get them to do a new weight in the gym. And maybe the last two or three reps don't look the prettiest, or maybe I'm helping them. Let's say they're doing a barbell curl, and those last two or three, they're starting to swing a little bit. So I might give them a little bit of pressure on the barbell to help them lift that bar, finish the set. Okay. To me, that's fine. All right. As long as they're not swinging from rep one and every single rep looks terrible. No, nothing wrong with that. There's something to be said about cheat reps. Okay. Cheat reps, CHEAT. They're not perfect. They're not textbook. But if they're going to help you get past a plateau as far as trying to get a new weight in the gym, I recommend doing it, but not on every exercise. All right. But I also recommend, for example, if you're trying to do it on a squat, you have a spotter or a bench press. Don't go for an extra rep that you've never done for weight before if you don't have a spotter. That's a dumb idea. All right. Especially if it's an exercise like a bench press or a squat and you don't have a spotter. You're asking for trouble. Right. So I know for a lot of people, they're like, you're a trainer. You shouldn't be saying that every rep should be perfect. I don't believe that though, because there's times where I have sloppy reps, but I know that there's a purpose for them because I know, okay, let's say I'm doing a tricep press down with 150 pounds. And I've been doing that weight for 12 reps for the last 3 months. But the next stack on the cable is 160, 10 pounds more. And I really want to do 160. I'm like, I feel I can do it, but I don't think I can get 12 reps. I know I can get 9 clean reps and maybe one assisted. Someone's maybe giving me some extra pressure on the pulley, or maybe I'm using a little bit of my shoulders to lean forward, a little bit of synergist muscles. I'm okay with that because I know if I do that once and I come back and I do that twice on the second week and maybe I do it on the third week, by the time I get to that fourth week, I'm not going to need my shoulders because my triceps have a feel for what that extra 10 pounds feels like. So I'm okay with that. All right. And I think most people should be okay with that as long as, like I said, it's only those last, like actually, like what you said, those last one or two repetitions. Okay. I don't think that makes it a bad set. But be very careful on what exercises you try to do this on. Like I said, if you're going to do it on an exercise like a squat or a bench press, please make sure you have a spotter. Obviously, a tricep press down, no, you don't need a spotter. Maybe it does help you have a training partner. I can give a little bit of pressure on the cable though, just to help a little bit. But I wouldn't be trying to just take weight that you've been struggling with. Let's say you're squatting 135 and say, today I want to squat 225. No, do a gradual increase. So maybe 5, 10 pounds. Build off that. All right. So as long as your reps don't look terrible from rep number one, you're good. All right. Last question. Nick, how do you know when it's time to completely change your training split versus improving execution? Yeah, that's a good question. And here's the thing is I've always just gone by intuition in the gym. I have. I don't do that with my diet. My diet, I'm very strict, very regimented. I like to portion everything out, weigh everything out. But with training, I just go by intuition. So I kind of listen to my body. And if something is not like, let's say if I'm doing a shoulder workout and I have to really sometimes have issues with that left trap back here. Okay, on my rhomboid. And I feel that shrugs were the reason for that over the years. So I stopped doing shrugs for a few years and I was just doing upright rows to hit the traps and my trap feels good. I've gone back to shrugs now and I'm not having any problems. So I'm like, oh, maybe it wasn't the shrugs, or maybe I was just doing too heavy on the shrugs, or I was doing shrugs too often, but now I brought them back in. My traps feel fine. So I kind of listen to my body. My arms, when I did that show, I got feedback from the judges. I talked about this a few weeks ago. And one of the critiques was on my triceps. They weren't big enough. So I went back to the drawing board and I took that critique and I was like, they're right. My triceps aren't big enough. What am I not doing with my triceps? I'm like, I'm not doing enough free weight movements. So I brought back in closed grip bench press. I brought back in dumbbell kickbacks. I brought back in skull crushers on a regular basis. My triceps are starting to get bigger again. So it's just like listening to your body, but also willing to take critique from others who are well versed in the gym, or well versed with basic anatomy and physiology. So that's why, again, it helps to have people in your inner circle who can help you and say, I think you can bring this up more, or maybe you need to work on this, because that helps too. Another thing too is with training splits, sometimes boredom. If you're doing the same training split over and over again for months on end, and you're like, I don't want to go do that friggin' leg workout again. Change it. Don't necessarily make it easier, but change it. Maybe you always start your workout off with squats. Why not finish your workout off with squats and start with lunges? I do this with clients from time to time, and it's not just to mix things up to shock the body. And sometimes it's just because like you do get bored. Let's face it, going to the gym is not necessarily exhilarating. Like you're lifting weights, right? So sometimes you need that mental little bit of stimulation, and that could be completely just change up your workout. Okay. But still train hard. I'm not saying, do a bunch of like weak ass exercises, like still train hard, but change up your sequence. Maybe even change up your tempo, add in some supersets, throw in some circuit training. So change it. Okay. But if you're doing something and it's working, if you're following a train split that's working, I say stay with it. Even if it's boring, if it's working, God, your goal is to build a better physique and your goal is to improve your health and fitness. So if you're doing all those things, 45 minutes of boredom, who cares? Do it. Okay, it's working. But I've always just gone by intuition, and I do have clients as well. I'm like, all right, we're going to change this up because of this reason. I don't just change things up for changing things up. So I work with someone in their training program, for example. Let's say someone's working with me just on their training program. Most people work with me on a combination of nutrition plan and training program, but if I'm working with someone, let's say I'm just doing their training program this time. What I'll typically do is I'll make revisions if something's not working. And what I mean by that is, okay, I'm giving them that upright row on their shoulder day. Like, oh, my rotator cuff really bothers me and I don't know what's going on. Every time I do shoulders, it really hurts. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm not working with you in person, but I've given you your training program. And I know a lot of people, when they do upright rows, for example, that can irritate the rotator cuff. And I know a lot of people who sit at desk all day have rounded shoulders. So by knowing this, I'm like, yeah, it's probably not the shoulder presses. It's probably not the lateral raises. It's definitely not the rear delt raises. It's most likely the upright rows. Let's take those out for a bit. Let's not even work on the traps. Let's just focus on the posterior deltoid, medial deltoid, anterior deltoid. I'm going to give you another exercise. Maybe I'll give you a second medial deltoid exercise, maybe with the cable lateral raise. Maybe I'll give you a front raise for the anterior deltoid. Maybe I'll give you another posterior deltoid exercise. We'll get back to traps. But right now, let's just take a break. They come back a week later. Oh, no problem, my shoulder. What's that exercise? Okay, so we're not going to take out that exercise for now. We'll put it back in a few weeks, few months, or in my case with the shrugs, a few years. It's important to have a good understanding, though, of anatomy and physiology so you know when and where to make those changes for people. All right. And again, working with a trainer, coach, someone who's experienced can make those changes. But if you're kind of doing it on your own, you have to go by intuition and you have to really pay attention to which exercises are bothering you, which exercises may not be benefiting you in the gym, which exercises you really don't enjoy. I know not everyone enjoys going to the gym and training legs, but if you know the exercise is giving you benefits, like if you're squatting, you're like, man, my quads are looking great. You probably should keep squatting, right? As much as you might hate it, that's what you're there to do. You're there to build your quads, right? So do the exercise. But some people, they don't respond well to squats. And Dorian Yates, six-time Mr. Olympia, talked about this, how he squatted for the first few years when he trained, but he never found they offered much benefits. So he switched them to just doing heavy leg press, heavy hack squats, and it worked for him. So that was his body type. All right. My body responds really well to squats. I don't enjoy squatting. A lot of people think I enjoy squatting. I'm like, I don't enjoy squatting because they see me doing it at the gym all the time. I'm like, well, they see me do it once a week with heavy weights, but I'm like, I don't enjoy it. I hate squatting. To this day, I still get anxiety before a leg workout. I hate it, but I know it works. So I force myself to do it because I want the results, but I don't enjoy it. The best part of the squat workout's when it's done. When it's done, I don't have to do it again for 6 days. That's the best time of my week. I'm like, oh, just did a squat workout. Done. Okay. So you have to really assess your physique, pay attention to what's going on, maybe use a little intuition if you don't have a coach or trainer in your corner, but that's when your body is going to tell you where to go. And if you listen to your body, and I tell this to people all the time, if you really listen to your body, it will tell you, hey, you know what, this exercise is not working for me right now. Every time I do it, it hurts. Change it up. Don't keep doing it. Okay. If it's causing you issues in your joints, your tendons, your ligaments, do not keep doing the same thing. You're going to make it worse. Okay. So be very mindful, especially as you get older. I can tell you this now as I get into my 40s. There are certain exercises I no longer do because I know that the risk to benefit ratio is not worth it. Okay. So if that makes me less of a man, totally fine with that. But I've been able to last so long injury free because I've always listened to my body. And I know if I listen to my body, and I also know because I have a good understanding and knowledge of human anatomy and physiology that I can plug in different exercises. And that's going to keep me lasting longer in this game. Because once someone gets injured, if it's a severe injury, it's really hard to come back from it. You might come back, but you'll never come back 100%. And, I don't want to be trained in the gym with a bum shoulder. I don't want to be trained with knee pain, hip pain, back pain. I'm pain free. Okay, yeah, I get little aches and pains like everyone, but nothing severe, nothing chronic. Okay. So, and I attribute that to listening to my body and really going by intuition in my workouts. Anyway, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode will be going up on Monday, May the 18th. As a reminder, if you do have any questions related to your nutritional plan, training program, supplements you're currently taking, not taking, or considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com or DM me on my Instagram, fitcosgrove_. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting my YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. I truly do appreciate all the support, all the feedback I receive from each and every single one of you. Thank you for supporting my online coaching business as well as my in-house personal training business here in Vancouver, British Columbia. It really means a lot to me. Anyway, I will see you all later on this week for the coaching reality episode that drops this Wednesday, May the 20th. For now, my name is Nick Cosgrove, and I will see you all later on this week. Bye for now.